Plate racks can be an amazing tool as you're getting out and training, and they're also a big investment. And the problem that we saw for many years is the fact that companies are making either overbuilt, welded solid units that you could never service if something went wrong. The only other option that you had were cheap knockoff plate racks that were really flimsy and honestly garbage. And anytime you start using those targets for real in a real training scenario with high volume shooters, it's just gonna fall apart on you. And what we wanted to do as a team is create a plate rack that rose from the ashes of all these other problems, all these other predecessors that we saw on the market, and create one that was truly worthy of you guys purchasing. And what we landed on, we ended up calling the Phoenix plate rack. And the Phoenix is durable. You're able to maintain it. You're able to service it and build and expand upon this system that's meant to last you guys for your lifetime of shooting. And today in this video, we're gonna reintroduce you guys to our Phoenix plate rack. 2017 was a really big year for us, and in that year we decided to branch away from just silhouette static steel targets and move into what we call our Phoenix plate rack. And the passion and energy that we put into this Phoenix is unlike any other system that we have ever created to date. There's a couple reasons for that. We saw on the market plate racks that were not serviceable in any way, shape, or form, and it was a major problem for people. We saw unsafe designs, plate racks that you could never fix unless you're like us and have a massive fabrication shop. And the reality is, most of you don't have that. So we wanted to create a system that was bolted together, that was designed and armored in a way that it would never fail you. But we also recognize that anything man-made can have issues. Anything man-made can have flaws. It can eventually wear out or need maintenance. And one of our core values and something we're really passionate about is creating systems and products that even if there is a problem, you can fix it with a basic hand tool. And with this system, guys, it's designed in a way that if you have a 3/4 inch deep socket and a hand wrench, you can virtually replace every single component on this thing. It's designed to last. It's designed elegantly, but it's designed in a way that's not too complex that you're gonna have tons of issues. And we called it the Phoenix because it rises out of the ashes of all the garbage that existed on the market. So when I talk about the Phoenix being built for a lifetime of use, I mean it. And I wanted to, before we get into the shooting aspect of this video, take you guys behind the Phoenix for a minute, because there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. There's a lot of engineering that went into this system that makes it what it is. So as I stated, everything's replaceable on this, including the baskets, the pulley system, but what you'll see is bolted on baskets with the paddles bolted in place. And we have a really unique feature on this plate rack that I haven't seen from anybody else, and we have these little bumpers on the back. So when you're setting up your plate rack, one of the first things we're gonna do is make sure the ground is level, make sure it's in a good spot, because this really is a permanent target system. You could take it apart, you could move it around if you want to. Most ranges that have these set them up and leave them go. But when we're setting it up, there's a couple things that we do to fine tune it those first couple times we were using it. The bumpers on the back, when we ship them out, may need adjustment depending on the conditions of your range. Whether there's a lean, it's flat, maybe it's leaning back a little bit. So what I went ahead and did is tighten down the bumpers and make it so that they are scrunched all the way down so that I don't get a double bounce on the paddle. And these bumpers are extremely important because they take out the violence of the impact and the falling plates. When these plates slam down, there's a lot of energy that's left over in them. So we want to try to dampen that to prevent any of the cracking. And we talked about how this has no welds on the back of it. That's super important because welds break when there's vibration and forces being exerted on them over time. Even though there's no welds, we still wanted to dampen that movement. This also lessens the chance of one paddle knocking down other paddles. We've seen that in other plate racks in the past as well. Another awesome feature on the Phoenix is the fact that it has an adjustable screw. And that bolt on the front here is important. And when we first set up the plate rack, we want to make sure that we're adjusting it in a way that all the paddles are in the same plane, but you can fine tune it for the caliber that you're shooting. And if you look at the front paddle versus this paddle, you'll see that this one is more upright. So if I'm shooting something lighter, say a 38 special revolver with really light target loads, maybe I want that plate to be a little bit more vertical so that it knocks over easier. But if I'm shooting a full power rifle, like a 308 out at distance, I really don't have a need for that screw to be engaging this paddle at all. Really, I can tighten it all the way in, and there's enough energy in that caliber to knock it over. When we're talking about the pulley reset system, everything here is protected behind that front armored shield, and that's super important. There's a lot of stuff going on in here, and when we're pulling that cable, it's rotating through multiple pulleys, so we need to make sure that's protected. We need to make sure fragmentation, other just garbage can't get in there and cause damage to the system. And one of the other first things that I did with this system right away is put a little bit of WD-40 around the cable. This is the first time this thing is getting used, so it's gonna be a little bit rough around the edges. We've got paint on pieces. I put a little bit of WD-40 on some of the paddles that were a little tight because of the paint. First time you get it out to the range, the first time you use it, you're gonna break all of that paint off of those pivot points, and it's gonna rotate smooth as butter. One other feature that I did want to point out on the back is every single basket has 2 extra holes in the back. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but that is for a spring reset mechanism that goes in the back here that allows you to automatically reset the paddles if you would desire. And there's a couple situations where I would highly recommend people buying this would consider grabbing them. And then on the front of this shield, we've got 3/8 AR-550. And the pulley mechanism is below the line of fire. That's super important. There's a lot of plate racks on the market that have these big reset mechanisms that are way up in the air. What ends up happening is they're in the line of fire, you're gonna shoot them. When we're talking about caliber ratings and distances, 9mm, 40 caliber, 45 ACP, all of those normal pistol calibers are gonna be 10 yards. Rifles like 300 Blackout, subsonic, we can do it 25, 30 yards. Other light carbines like 5.56, we can be shooting at 50 yards with this. With shorter barrels like a 10.3, 12.5, we can shoot even closer than that because of the 3/8 AR-550 paddles. You do have the option to upgrade to 1/2-inch AR-550 paddles. So guys, this plate rack is seriously built for every caliber that you would commonly find in the training and hunting world. And now we're gonna get into the good stuff. So we're gonna spend some time on the range shooting. We're gonna show you this plate rack in action, some of my favorite drills to run with it. We're gonna start off with my Glock 19. Let's dive into that. So that was a drill using a barricade and my 10.3-inch 5.56. Super simple. The cool thing about the Phoenix is since it's an 8-inch paddle, even at distances like 30, 40 yards off of a barricade like that, it's still a challenging drill to be running. I'm gonna reset this real quick. When we're shooting further drills like that at 30, 40, 50 yards, or even further, maybe 100 to 400 yards, there's a bit of a disadvantage having a cable like this. And the reality is, if you wanted to, you could take 400 yards worth of cable, stretch it out, and try to reset it. But that's not the best use of your time. It's not the most efficient way to do it. The Phoenix has a cool feature called the Spring Reset Kit. It installs in the back of the baskets. It doesn't affect any of the other functions, the reset mechanism on the Phoenix at all. It takes about a minute to install. And it's gonna allow you guys to do these drills at further distances without having to walk down range or have a ton of cable on hand for resetting, because the springs are gonna automatically reset the paddles. We're gonna install that in the Phoenix, keep running some drills. So we took you guys on the journey of the Phoenix, and it's something that I'm super proud of our entire team for creating. I can't stress enough how many months went into creating this system. And it's a system that's designed to be easily fixed if there's ever a problem. And you might be asking, what kind of problems could you run into? The lifespan of the paddles is really the only wearable component, as well as the cable. And the paddles themselves can be rotated with 2 3/4 inch nuts on the back of 1/2 inch carriage bolts. So you have a deep socket, 3/4 inch, you can take them apart, flip the paddles. If it's time to replace them, you can replace them very simply. You can order the replacement paddles right on our website. Every other component on the Shield can be replaced, down to the basket, pulley system, everything. Every component can be removed from the Phoenix. You might be asking, will you ever need to maintain it? In reality, most people, all they're gonna ever have to do is use a little bit of WD-40, keep everything lubed up, make sure the paddles are tight, make sure the bolts are tight, and just every once in a while use our touch-up paint to freshen up the Shield and the paddles to keep it looking good, because ultimately this is an investment in your range. So will you need to replace anything? Will you need to maintain it? Most likely, unless you're really high volume range, the answer to that is no. But even though we know that that's the fact, and even though we overbuilt the system and we made it in a way that it shouldn't fail anybody, and up to this point in the existence of the Phoenix, we have never had a failure in the system. We made it in a way that you could fix it if you needed to, because we care about you guys. We want to see you getting out and training. We want to see your money going to good uses. We want to see a good investment and a good return on your investment. And every time you buy one of our products like the Phoenix Plate Rack, you guys are investing in yourselves. Our mission is ultimately to equip you all with products and tools that are going to help you become a better defender. But the most important aspect of all of this, whether you buy our products or not, is that you're hitting the range with purpose, getting out and getting trained. And ultimately, even if you don't buy a plate rack like this, if you don't buy any of our products in our lineup, but you do get out and you do train, you put time and energy into your training, that's what matters most to us guys, and that's how you're gonna become a better asset to your community.